Good morning, Bobcats. So yesterday we started the new book, Fudge-A-Mania, and in the first chapter, Fudge declares he is going to marry Sheila Tubman. And we all remember how Peter feels about Sheila Tubman, so we can see why he may have fainted. Mom also brings up that they're going to be going away to a vacation rental in Maine, and apparently they're going to be next door to Sheila Tubman. So, Chapter 2, Pete and Farley. That night we went to Tico Taco for supper. I wasn't very hungry. The idea of spending 3 weeks next door to Sheila Tubman was enough to take away my appetite. I wish the Tubmans would move to another planet, but until that happens, there's no way to avoid Sheila. She lives in our apartment building. We go to the same school. I kind of groaned and Dad looked at me. "What is it, Peter?" "Sheila Tubman," I said. "What about her?" Dad asked. "We're getting married," Fudge said, his mouth full of chicken and taco shell. "I'm not talking about your wedding," I said. "I'm talking about spending 3 weeks in Maine next door to the Tubmans." "It won't be as bad as you think," Mom said. "You don't know how bad I think it will be. Sheila's older now. She's finished 6th grade, same as you." "What's age got to do with it?" I said. "She'll still be the queen of cooties." "What's cooties?" Fudge asked. When I didn't answer, he tugged on my sleeve. "What's cooties, Pete?" "Since when am I Pete?" I asked, shaking him off. "Since today," he said. "Well, I prefer Peter if you don't mind. Pete is a better name for a big brother. And Farley is a better name for a little brother." I figured that would shut him up since his name really is Farley Drexel Hatcher and he's ready to kill anybody who calls him that. "Don't call me Farley," he said. Then he really let go and yelled, "I'm Fudge!" The waiter, who heard him from across the room, came over to our table and said, "Sorry, we don't have any tonight, but we do have mud pie, which is almost the same thing." Dad had to explain that we weren't talking about dessert, and Mom added, "We never eat dessert until we've finished our main course." "Oh," the waiter said. But before he had a chance to get away, Fudge looked up at him and said, "Do you have cooties?" "Cooties?" the waiter asked. "For dessert?" He looked confused, especially when Tootsie banged her spoon against the tray of her baby seat and sang, "Cootie, cootie." I could tell Fudge was about to ask the same question again, but before he had the chance, I clamped my hand over his mouth. Then Dad told the waiter we didn't need anything else right now. The waiter walked away, shaking his head, and I took my hand away from Fudge's mouth. As soon as I did, he was back in business. "What's cooties?" This time, the people at the next table looked over at us. "They're like nits," Mom told him quietly. "What's nits?" Fudge asked. "Head lice," Dad said, almost in a whisper. "Head mice?" Fudge asked. "Not mice, turkey brain," I told him. "Lice. Little, creepy, crawly bugs that live in hair." I snapped my fingernails at his head the way Sheila Tubman used to do to me. Fudge yelled, "I don't want creepy, crawly bugs in my hair!" Now everyone in the restaurant looked over at us. "That's enough, Peter," Dad said. "Well, he's the one who wanted to know." "That's enough," Mom said. It came out sounding like enough, which got Tootsie going. "Ee, Tootsie shrieked, banging her spoon. This is the way it's going to be all summer, I thought, only worse. So I put down my taco and said, "Maybe I should go to camp in August." Dad got this really serious look on his face. "We don't have the money this year, Peter. We wouldn't be going away at all if it weren't for Grandma, who's paying more than her share." "But if you want, you can bring a friend," Mommy said. "A friend?" I asked. "You mean like Jimmy Fargo?" They both nodded. "Jimmy is my best friend in New York. We've always wanted to spend the summer together." "What about me?" Fudge asked. "Can I bring a friend too?" I held my breath. "You'll find a friend in Maine," Mom told him. "Suppose I don't?" Fudge asked. "You're getting married," I reminded him. "Does that mean I don't get a friend?" Fudge asked. "Of course not," Mom told him. "I'm married and I have friends. Daddy's married and he has friends." "What about Uncle Feather?" I said. "Uncle Feather is Fudge's minor bird. He's your friend, isn't he?" "I can't play with Uncle Feather," Fudge said. "He's not that kind of friend. And I can't marry him either. If he was a girl bird, it would be different." "People don't marry birds," I told him. "Some people do." "Name one," I said. "The guy who's married to Big Bird on Sesame Street." "Big Bird's not married," I said. "That's how much you know," Fudge shouted. He's learned to say that every time someone disagrees with him. It's a real conversation stopper. I give up, I said, going back to my taco, which was getting soggy. Up, Tootsie repeated, holding out her arms. Up, up, up. Dad lifted her out of the baby seat and she squirmed until he put her down. Then she took off, toddling through the restaurant, stopping at every table. Fudge scrambled off his chair and ran after her. Eating out with my family is not exactly relaxing. Here, girl, Fudge said, as if he were calling Dog. Here's something just for you. He lured her back to our table and dropped some of his taco on her tray. Yum, he said to her. Yum, yum, yum. Dad put Tootsie back into her seat. She stuffed the chicken pieces into her mouth. I always know what Tootsie wants, Fudge said. That's why I'm her favorite brother. Tootsie doesn't have favorites, Mom told him. She loves both her brothers. But she loves me best, Fudge said. Then he looked at me and laughed. When he did, half the food in his mouth wound up on my shirt. I called Jimmy Fargo as soon as we got home. I asked him to come to Maine with us. 3 weeks next door to Sheila Tubman? The houses are really far apart, I said. Nobody told me this, but I was hoping it was true. You won't even be able to see her house. There'll probably be a forest separating us. When he didn't say anything, I added, and don't forget, Sheila's scared of dogs, so we can get Turtle after her any time she tries to give us trouble. Turtle is my dog. He's big enough to look scary, but he'd never hurt anybody. Lucky for us, Sheila doesn't know that. Jimmy laughed. Maybe I can come for a week. A week isn't long enough. Hey, Peter, no offense, but a week with your family can feel like a really long time. That's because Jimmy's the only kid in his family. His parents are divorced. He lives with his father, Frank Fargo, who's a painter. How about 2 weeks, I said. Is your brother bringing his bird? Yeah, Uncle Feather's part of the family, I told him. Same as Turtle. So it will be your mother, your father, Fudge, Tootsie, Turtle, Uncle Feather, and you? Right, I said. And my grandmother's coming too. The one who taught you to stand on your head? Yeah. Grandma Muriel is Mom's mother. She ran a gymnastics camp before she retired. You think she could teach me? Jimmy asked. Maybe, I said. I'll talk to my father, Jimmy said. I'll let you know tomorrow. He called back the next morning. Mr. Fargo liked the idea of Maine. He liked it so much he said he'd drive Jimmy up and camp out in the area himself. That's great, I said. Maybe 3 weeks in Maine wouldn't be as bad as I'd thought.